Good morning, everybody. Welcome into our contemplative worship service for today, where we will be remembering the servant leadership of Christ through the practice of foot washing or foot blessing or hand washing or none of the above if you aren't comfortable with any of those things. We also have Lenten prayer stations set up for our service today as well. So this is a chance for you this morning to worship God, to remember Christ in a different way than we normally would. This is a chance to be interactive and to receive the blessings in a different way that God offers to all of us. So just a few things about how our church service will work this morning before we move on with the rest of the service. When we get to the foot washing portion of the service, there are 3 stations set up in here. Up here in the front will be an actual foot washing station where you'll be invited to come forward and take your socks and shoes off and have your feet washed up here. In this back corner, there's a hand washing station where if you would prefer to have your hands washed, Rich will be back there and he'll be doing hand washing station as well. And then in this corner over here by the technology booth, there is a station for you to have your feet blessed, leaving your socks and shoes on, and Donna will be at that station doing the foot blessing. So that's how that part of the service will work. If you're not comfortable doing any of those, or after you've already had your feet washed, blessed, or your hands washed, in the rest of the church, including the Dunstan room, the Great room, the Godly Playroom, the annex entrance, and the church library in the annex, there are 5 different prayer stations for you to take part in. And they are listed, and they have a prayer and a little description about what each station is next to them. So that's what our church service is this morning. But as we prepare to gather, let's turn to our neighbors and greet them with the peace of Christ. So the peace of Christ be with you all. And as our musicians come forward to start to prepare to play our Lenten theme song for us, I would invite you into a space of silent prayer and meditation as we reflect on all that God has offered to us and continues to offer to us and will offer to us in the future. So friends, let's take a moment of silent reflection to prepare ourselves and to be with God.
I've read the stories of heartache and of glory. I've prayed every prayer for you, and I've tasted glory because you say we're worthy. I've sung every song for you. But I have a wandering heart and a fickle fate. Can you find me here? Can I see your face? Help me return to you. There's nothing I'd rather do than return to you. There's nothing I'd rather do. The storm may rise, the trumpet sound, the curtain tear, and even now return to you. There's nothing I'd rather do than return to you.
Our gospel reading this morning is from the book of John, chapter 13, verses 1 through 17, which is found on page 876 in your Pew Bible. The story of the Last Supper in John's gospel recalls a remarkable event not mentioned elsewhere. Jesus performs the duty of a servant, washing the feet of his disciples and urging them to do the same for one another. Before the festival of Passover, Jesus knew that his time had come to leave this world and go to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them fully. Jesus and his disciples were sharing the evening meal. The devil had already provoked Judas, Simon Iscariot's son, to betray Jesus. Jesus knew the Father had given everything into his hands, and he had gone from God and was returning to God. So he got up from the table and took off his robes. Picking up a linen towel, he tied it around his waist. Then he poured water into a wash basin and began to wash the disciples' feet, drying them with the towel he was wearing. When Jesus came to Simon Peter, Peter said to him, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" Jesus replied, You don't understand what I'm doing now, but you will understand later." "No," Peter said, "you will never wash my feet." Jesus replied, "Unless I wash you, you won't have a place with me." Simon Peter said, "Lord, not only my feet, but also my hands and my head." Jesus responded, "Those who have bathed need only to have their feet washed, because they are completely clean. You disciples are clean, but not every one of you." He knew who would betray him. That's why he said, "Not every one of you is clean." After he washed the disciples' feet, he put on his robes and returned to his place at the table. He said to them, "Do you know what I've done for you? You call me teacher and Lord, and you speak correctly because I am. If I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you too must wash each other's feet. I have given you an example. Just as I have done, you also must do. I assure you, servants aren't greater than their master, nor are those who are sent greater than the one who sent them. Since you know these things, you will be happy if you do them."
So why foot washing? Why would we devote a service to remembering foot washing? In our culture today, in our time today, in the world that we live in, to get down and wash another person's feet might seem a little strange. But in the time that Jesus lived, in the time that we hear our story this morning, foot washing was a pretty common thing that happened in that world. If you think about the area that Jesus lived in and the time that he lived in, what do we always see Jesus wearing on his feet? Sandals. We always see Jesus wearing sandals on his feet. And in that area, there was a lot of sand and a lot of dust. So when you entered into someone's home, the polite thing to do was to wash your feet before going in, just like how we take our shoes off. And when I go to visit you, you say, "Oh no, you don't have to take your shoes off." But I do it anyway because it is the polite thing to do not to track through somebody's house. We can think of this the same way. And in that time, it was either there was a basin, a bowl with some sort of cloth there for you to wash your own feet, or there was a servant that would do the foot washing as you entered into somebody's home. So what Jesus is showing us here is that to be a leader, to be like God, to be like Jesus means to get down and to wash other people's feet, to take the spot of a servant and show servant leadership. So friends, I want you to think of two questions as we do this morning, as we go through our prayer stations, as we do our foot washing. I want you to think of two questions. First question is, what would you say to your loved ones if you knew you were going to die? And the second question is, what would you do for your loved ones if you knew you were going to die? Because the story that we hear this morning comes right near the end of Jesus' ministry. This is John's account of the Last Supper. So we're leading right up to the time when Jesus is going to be killed on a cross. And he knew that he was going to. And the most important thing that he did, the most important thing that he said to those that he loved was to show service, to show kindness, to show grace by washing the feet and offering bread to the one that would betray him, Judas, and the one that would deny him, Peter. So if we look at Jesus in this story, our lesson can be that we also should be showing service. We also should be showing love. We also should be showing grace. But we've been looking at Peter over the last few weeks during Lent. So what can Peter tell us from this story? Well, I think what's important for us to take away from Peter here is that even when we mess up, even when we deny, even when we feel we are not worthy, oh, you're not going to wash my feet. Even when we feel like there's no redemption, Jesus is there for us, Jesus loves us, and Jesus cleanses us. So as humans, just like Peter was, we're all going to mess up, we're all going to make mistakes. We're all going to have times in our lives when we feel like we just don't measure up, and into those spaces when we feel like we don't deserve anything, Jesus says, "You are beloved, and I am here to serve you." So if that's how you're feeling this morning, I want you to hear those words. You are beloved, and God is here in this space to serve you. So friends, we're going to transition into our foot washing. A few things to note. For our folks who are online with us currently, if you would like to wash, if you're with somebody else and you'd like to wash their feet, feel free to do that. There's also on our website, hopefully we can get a link to our comments section in the live stream to our homepage on our website. There's a link for you to click for prayer stations, Lenten prayer stations at home for our live streaming folks. For folks here, you are invited to start with the foot washing if you would like to, and then transition out to all of the Lenten prayer stations. And then once you finish with those, you're welcome to come back in here, spend some silent time in prayer, and then we do have coffee hour today still, so you're welcome to head down to coffee hour after you are finished with everything that you would like to do today. Today is at your pace, up to you, what you want to do, what you're comfortable with. So take that into account. And we're going to start with our stations. So my worship assistants, if we could get set up, that would be great. Amen.